Living History, World War II stories as told by those who were there.
Lieutenant Roy June was a P-51 pilot flying long-range combat missions over Japan from his base on Iwo Jima in 1945.
So we picked up our aircraft then and brought them back to Iwo, and at that time we were using Japanese Airfield Number 1, which is the one in the narrowest part of the island and also the one closest to Mount Suribachi. Our initial flights were at the request of the Marine Corps for support of their troops on the north end of the island. And we were taking off into the wind. We were being fired at as we took off, and so we reversed our takeoff method and took off downwind, which was right into Mount Suribachi, which meant that when you left the runway, you had to immediately make a hard right turn or a hard left turn to keep from flying into the mountains. And there was to be either a yellow smoke line or yellow tape line, and the bad guys are on the north side of the tape line and the good guys are on the left side of the tape line, and don't drop any ordnance on the left side. Our targets were rather obscure because at this point most of the Japanese were underground. We were able to identify from aerial photographs some what seemed to be cave entrances, and these were our primary targets. We each aircraft carried 2 500-pound bombs. These were my first combat missions, and they were I think I flew 4 the first day and 3 the second day. In the first part of April of 1945, we began our long-range missions to Japan. These were the longest over-water flights for land-based single-engine aircraft in World War II. And in between Iwo and the main islands of Japan, there are no other islands. Of the 8-hour mission, it was only 20 minutes we could spend over Japan. If we spent any longer, we were playing games with our fuel on the return. And in some cases, pilots who were not careful about time spent over the target wound up in the water by parachute on the way home. One of the most memorable missions that I had was one where I was not able to get to Japan. June 1st, 1945, we were told that there would be some weather ahead of us and that we would be able to fly over it. Into the mission, we began to discover that the weather was more severe than we thought. In retrospect, afterwards, we determined pretty much that it was the beginnings of a Pacific typhoon, which may have a clear space in the center anywhere from 10 to 50 miles across. I tied in close to my flight leader and his wingman, and my wingman was with me. After about 10 to 15 minutes in this weather, I broke out into the center and I was all by myself. There was not another aircraft in sight anyplace. I went up to I think close to 40,000 feet and found that I was not going to be able to fly over it. And then I dropped down to find that I was so close to the water with the violence that the thermals might bounce me into the water, so I knew I couldn't fly under it. I flew for a while into this overcast, and finally I broke out, and lo and behold, there was a B-29. I figured he was going back to Guam and to Saipan, and that I couldn't make it back that far with him, but I was going to stay with him for as long as I could. Tried to call on the radio to the B-29 crew to give me a compass heading back to Iwo Jima. They had a navigator on their aircraft. The radio static was so bad from the storm and so garbled that I could not communicate with them at all by radio. I flew up close in formation to him, and I saw his 2 side gunners pointing their guns at me, and I thought I better give these people some identification. So I flew out a ways away from the aircraft and gave them a side silhouette in a top silhouette of the aircraft, so they know it was a P-51 Mustang and not some Japanese aircraft. I flew with the B-29 for a period of time, and all of a sudden the co-pilot sitting in the right-hand seat pointed straight down, and I looked down, and there was Iwo Jima. They had brought me back from a case where I was totally lost. A memorable mission that I had. It was a strafing mission to Osaka, and I got in the over the target, and all of a sudden my electrical equipment disappeared. About that time, a Japanese aircraft, a HAMP, popped up out of the clouds, and I followed him in, and I had just enough electric left in the battery of my aircraft to fire the solenoids on the 50 caliber machine guns. I hit him in the left wing where the wing butts into the fuselage and set him on fire, and we both watched as he spiraled down, and just before he hit the overcast, his wing came off, so we knew we had a victory at that point. Later on, my flight leader, or my wingman I should say, and I encountered I think it was another HAMP, and we both attacked. I attacked first, and again, almost a copy of the first victory. The hydraulic system apparently I hit because the wheels dropped and some parts started coming off, and then I had to break off to keep from flying into the aircraft, and then my wingman hit him, and we watched him go in. Then on the third one, we actually attacked from the rear and hit the aircraft, and he was smoking pretty heavily as he went down through an overcast. That was the sum and substance of my aerial fight with the enemy.